is how your car should start when it's cold out. So we're going to talk about some cold start tuning today. If you do it right, you won't have any problem starting your car. It is 30 degrees out right now. So we are in my 86 Fox Body Mustang. It has a forged 408 engine. And it starts up easily, regardless of the temperature outside. I can start it, get in it, and drive it. Doesn't matter when. That's how you know you've got it tuned properly for your cold start and your idle. So today we're going to talk about how to get yours tuned so you can do the same thing. There's nothing more annoying than starting your car and having to wait until it warms up before you can drive it. The amount of time that I have to go drive my car is limited, so when I need to drive it, I don't have time to let it sit and idle in my driveway for 10 or 15 minutes before I can go driving it. So let's dive into a little bit of what makes that possible. Alright, so for those of you guys that are not very familiar with TunerStudios, that is what this is here. So in TunerStudios, when you're talking about your cold start and your idle, or your warm-up basically, there's one very important thing that you need to make sure of, and that is that your temperature of your engine, you need to make sure that it's warmed up. So down here, and these buttons you can change, but you need to make sure that Up Enrichment is not currently active on your car. So you need to get the temperature above what that setting is. To check that, you can go up here to Start Up and Idle. Then you go to Up Enrichment, which is WUE. And you can check and see. So this last cell right here is the temperature in which your Up Enrichment, when the temperature gets greater than that, it'll turn off. So mine is set to 160. It's just where I've got mine at. You can set yours at, typically 180 is where they're at, but I like mine to turn off a little sooner. It is what it is, but just make sure that your Up Enrichment is not on or active at the moment. That is a very important detail. Secondly is after your car is warmed up, you can see right here my coolant temperature is greater than that set point. That is when you need to dial in your idle fuel. So you'll need to make sure that your car is idling, and you'll have to find the cells where it idles. Typically in this area is where mine idles, but you'll see the yellow squares. Right now mine's sitting right here, but when mine's idling, I can start it up real quick and show you. It's just pretty loud. So you can see the mine's idling right here. Once you get yours warmed up, you get your idle mixture set, that is when you can start adjusting your Up Enrichment. And the frustrating part about this is that you'll have to let it cool down again, and then the next time you do a cold start, see how it works. But what I have found, you can see here, I'll open this for you again, but if you go up to Start Up and Idle, you go to Up Enrichment. If you really want to be able to dial it in for your climate, like mine goes to 30, right? And today it was 18 degrees when I started my car, and it started up flawlessly. But you have to put your coolant temperature that you want in here, and you'll typically have some settings. But I started 30, worked my way up in about 10 or 15 degree increments up to 160. And then the percentage, right? So typically your percentages, you need to have 100% in the final row. 100% means that it's going to give it exactly what it should have, right? Or exactly what the ECU is commanding it. But if you give it like 150 or 149% is what I've got at 30 degrees, it will give it a lot more fuel, and it's a percentage of what's on your VE table. So you can see that I've got 41, 43, 42, right around that area is what I'm at. So 100% means it's going to give it that. 150%, you'll have to take that times 1.5 to figure out what that ends up being, right? But that's typically how you do it. So you'll adjust your temperature first, and then give it a percentage where you think it's going to run good. And if it doesn't, or it's too lean, you can add more fuel into it. And what I've found is that when it's cold, a VE of about 12.4 is really good, and then you slowly, an AFR, you can see I've got an AFR gauge right there. So when it's cold, an AFR of about 12.4 to 12.6 really helps it to get going. And obviously your idle should be right around 14.6, 14.8, somewhere in that neighborhood there. But that's typically how you do it, right? So if you figure out that you're running at let's say you've got a 35 in here, take that times about 1.5 is 150% at 30 degrees. You can figure out what that number will be. What that number is going to be is not really that important, but that's how you figure it out. The other thing is on your startup and idle. If you go up here, there is an after start enrichment that will also help. You can see there's an after start enrichment and then a taper. You can see here, there's your after start and there's your temperature degrees. So this is the range for after start, the enrichment percentage, and then the taper is how long that's active. You can see mine's active for a really long time, and this is in engine cycles or seconds. So I like mine to have more of a taper for longer, so I increase that to 2,000, and I slowly bring that down so that it gives it a little extra fuel right after it starts up so that it runs better. Now there's some other things in here. If you're having issues with your starting, you can adjust your priming pulse and your cranking pulse. So the cranking pulse is how much fuel it's going to give it while you're cranking. That is also important. You can see on mine, I have it set pretty high when it's cold. So I've got 450 all the way down to 120 when it's really hot. So that's just to give it a little extra fuel while you're cranking. That's your cranking pulse. So you can adjust this higher if you need more fuel, or lower depending on what issues you're having. If it's flooding and you have to hold the pedal to the floor, you can take some fuel away. And then the other thing is your priming pulse. That is the pulse that it gives it in the cylinder. So you can adjust your pulse width to give yourself a little bit more starting fuel if you need to here as well. And your priming pulse will help when it's cold or also when it's hot. So if you have too much fuel and you're vapor locking when it's hot, you can take some away also. That's another neat thing you can do with this. But the cranking pulse is typically where you're going to need more adjustments. You can see your temperatures where you bring that is important, because if you cut out at 90, like let's say that your table goes to 50 and it's 10 degrees when you're trying to start your car, well, it's going to give it whatever that last cell is, that's what it's going to get. So if it needs more fuel, it's not going to get it. It's kind of how you've got to look at that there. And then on the warm-up enrichment side of things, on the coolant, you should see kind of a nice linear, it should have a little bit of a slope to it as you get less and less fuel, but it'll start up higher and go lower with your warm-up enrichment. And you can adjust it at any point in this table. You can change your numbers. You can see it highlights that dot red. You can change this number to try to adjust it as it's warming up. I found this works pretty good. But the main thing is to make sure you get your car warm, make sure that your temperature is good, and then make sure that your idle is set right and then start adjusting your warm-up enrichment. That's the best procedure for doing that. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have questions, throw them in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. See you on the next video.